All right, let's check out this puzzle. So, first thing to notice is that our opponent has a couple of pieces that are very underdeveloped. They're not in the game yet. And so we have to use this initiative to try to secure an advantage before he can bring the rest of his pieces back into play. So we have, we can kind of conceive of it as having um, two or three free moves, or even just one free move to get in before he can take advantage of what looks like extra material as well. So he's got an extra knight that we don't have. So if we use that initiative to our advantage, we better win a good amount of material back, um, such as a full rook, right? Because even just winning a bishop here or a knight is not going to be enough to resecure our advantage. So one obvious move that we can see here is rook f1 check. And after queen takes f1, bishop takes f1, king takes f1, we've won 1 point of material back. And I think that may still not be enough. We could play a move like queen c1 check, and then he would just block with his rook, and then we could take on b2 and threaten to win this rook on a1. And I think that looks like a pretty powerful sequence because his knight has nowhere to go where it can uncover the two rooks' defense of each other without also losing itself. So that's definitely a variation that we have to consider. It's the most forcing move because it is a check, and it also attacks the queen. Wins a little bit of material and potentially sets our opponent up for further tactics down the line by drawing keeping the king on the first rank while removing the guard of the queen on that rank. So before we commit to that move, we should look for other variations as well. There's no real attack down the g file. I mean, there is an X-ray check on the G file, but we don't really have enough firepower to sacrifice on G3 or anything like that, looking for like something thematic. There's nothing happening on this square because the rook is covering it. This would be otherwise a pretty powerful check, and potentially picking up this bishop at some point is an idea that we can look to later on as well. But another idea would be to sacrifice the rook for the bishop, keeping in mind that we're already down a little bit of material, so we have to be careful with losing even more material. And the question is, do we get anything from this after rook takes? I'm just not seeing it. So based on that, I think we can kind of decide that we're going to invest a little bit more to calculate this variation that we spotted right off the bat. So rook f1 check. Now, he has to take with his queen because there's no way for his king to get out of that check. So that's forced. And then, being as we just lost a rook, we kind of have to, pick material back up. We have to take with the bishop. And after that, we've won a queen for a rook, which does recuperate quite a bit of material. So I would guess here that his king also has to recapture on f1. The bishop is also attacking the rook on e2. But does he have something like a zwischenzug? Potentially, let's say he plays bishop takes h7 check. Is that a valid move? Bishop takes h7 check, and after king takes h7, he has rook takes e8, which wins an exchange back. And let's just kind of count the material there. So he will have a rook, a knight, and another rook. And we will have a bishop and a queen. So that's 12 points of material on our side and 13 points of material on his side. So he's going to be up 1 point of material in that variation. So that's something that, kind of alarm bells go off. Maybe that's not the right move. Uh, so we could start by getting rid of this rook. Rook takes e4, and then after rook takes e4, then we go for this variation, check, queen takes, and after bishop takes, then he doesn't have this bishop takes h7 tactic. He can maybe take with his king, and then we give a check here, and then we take on b2, and we pick up a knight potentially after the rook maybe comes back. We take on b2. The knight has to get moving somewhere, and then we take it with our queen, and then he can protect his rooks. In that variation, we have a queen for 2 rooks. So we're also not up material in that variation either. So there's probably, we're probably working with the right ideas, but we have to finagle the move order in order to produce the result that we maximally want in order to get up in material at the end of this. So is there anything we can improve about this sequence? Takes, queen takes here. And let's say bishop takes h7. What if we just go king f7 instead of accepting that sacrifice? And then let's say he plays like rook check here for whatever reason. We can keep running with the king, and then let's say he checks again. We go here. He takes with a check, takes, and then in that variation, we still have our bishop on f1. He hasn't captured it yet. And if he does finally capture, we still have this check. And here we're winning a whole rook. So we would have a queen for 2 minor pieces. So that looks pretty good to me. Let's give that a shot. Okay, so we take. Okay, so he goes for that. So the key here, I think, is that we don't take the bishop, and instead we move into the f file. And there's 2 squares that we can move into on the f file, either f7 or f8. So there must be a difference between these 2 moves. King f7, let's say he plays bishop to g6 check, and that move looks pretty good, because if takes with the queen, he can take here, we take here, and then after king takes, we don't have queen to c1 check anymore because our queen is now on g6. But on the other hand, we're up a queen for just a rook and a knight, so that still looks like we're winning. And the other option is king f8. These 2 moves are pretty difficult to distinguish, like which one is the correct move here. King f8. And it looks like we're not going to have enough time for another puzzle after this one, because it's a pretty long one. We've been going at this for over 8 minutes now. So we're going to just close it on this one after we're done. King f8 or king f7, what is the difference? So king f8, rook takes would be with a check. So that's one difference. King f7, it wouldn't be with a check, but we kind of decided that we're going to take the rook anyways. Either way, we're defending. Is there the idea of a rook check, and then followed by rook takes f1? I don't see what the difference would be in terms of king f7 or king f8. Either way, we probably go to e7. That stops queen c1 check. Should we take a look at king takes here again after rook takes here? I don't think we would want that. I think we want to protect the rook. So yeah, this is a pretty tough decision. I'm going to take one last look at it, and if I don't get it, I'm just going to guess, just for the sake of time here. But I think we've already done a pretty good job with this puzzle. Maybe I should rein in the rating range a little bit. I'm 2000 on chess.com right now since the rating system changed. And these puzzles go up to 2200 in rating. So some of them could be higher than my rating currently, including this one. So we'll see what the rating of the puzzle is after we're finished solving it. So King f8 just looks, maybe a little bit better because we're hopping off the color of his bishop. King takes, rook takes here. We got a queen. We got 12 points of material. Like we said before, he's got 13 points of material. Do we have queen c1 anyways in that position? Threatening some sort of a discovered check. And he wouldn't be able to go back to e1. So maybe we just take the bishop. That's another idea. If f7 and f8 are too hard to distinguish, maybe neither of them is the move. That's also a possibility. I'm kind of leaning towards that right now, just on that basis. So king takes h7, rook takes queen c1. And is there any way to stop queen takes b2 and picking up the knight as well? What can he really do with this rook? He can't go back to e2 because of the bishop. He can't go back to e1. And then if he moves the knight at all, we just take the rook. So let's go for that. Yes, taking the bishop was the correct answer. Okay, so that was the correct idea. And after rook takes rook, I think we probably just go queen c1. Let's take a look at the analysis because I'm curious about this. Let's just see what the best move is after that sequence. So yeah, rook takes e8. Yeah, queen c1 is crushing, and bishop takes c4 is also a move, but queen c1 I think has to be the best move. And there's nothing he can do. He just knight d2 and then queen takes a1 to win the game. Okay, so that's all for that puzzle. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.